In my mind, Tom was one of the most innovative and imaginative offensive football coaches in the conference. He would look at a film one time and be able to look at our upcoming opponent and look at it the very first time through and be able to see weaknesses on the defensive side of the ball that our opponents had that we could use in our game plan for the coming week. Whereas the rest of us, it would take 5, 10, 15. It would take us all week sometimes to be able to see it.
When I was young and 8 years old, I could not wait to play for Tom Schwalbach. One of the things that most of the guys could not wait for coming out of junior tackle was a chance to play high school football. And to play for Tom Schwalbach was like, he was legendary even back then.
Wow, he was such a good coach, a good person. And people really wanted to play for him. That's what kind of motivated me, that if I ever went to West, I knew I'd play for a guy that I could like. And he knew football too.
I think Tom is separate from other coaches because there were several coaches in our conference that were very regimented. In other words, they didn't deviate at all from their schemes, and the kids had to run it exactly. Tom was a little bit more flexible as far as scheming and using the talents that we had.
I just always knew West High School had a good football program, and I think it's because of the coach. They had good athletes, but I think Coach Schwalbach kept a lot of those kids, kept them eligible, kept them playing every week.
He had expectations from you. When you made it to that level, he knew that you knew what you were doing. But if you became flashy or anything like that, he didn't tolerate it, okay? He wanted athletes that were prepared to play, knew how to carry themselves on and off the field, and that was big for him. If he saw you in the hall doing something you shouldn't have been doing or monkeying around, you would hear from him, okay? He didn't just look at your ability to play and say, hey, well, I'll let that pass. No, he held you to a standard.
He did a good job of teaching youngsters. I think he loved to coach. As all coaches that I knew, they just loved the sport that they were in, and Tom was that way.
Once the game started, he was very focused, and he's very excited about what we were doing. He knew the offense, forward and backward.
West High School just looked like, as a kid, a professional organization. They really had it going good.
He wanted men, okay? And I would say that most of the guys I played with turned out pretty well. And a lot of that has to do with Tom Schwalbach.
As a person, he was one of the most compassionate, one of the most loyal, honest, one of the most sincere people that I have ever been associated with.
I mean, for years, he got the best out of those athletes. And I know a lot of them that are very successful in the community today. They all went through his program, his system. And I think he had an impact on how some of those guys turned out. He couldn't change all of them, but he helped a lot of young men realize that sports wasn't everything, but he was gonna coach you and coach you properly.
Being inducted into the Hall of Fame is special, and I consider it an honor to be able to come here and speak for him. And last but least, it's about time.
Tom was my football mentor. And by that, I mean he taught me the game of football. I didn't know the game until I really coached with Tom. And he taught me what the game really is all about. And for that, I can't thank him enough. I'm honored. I'm honored to be able to do this interview and talk about him because he deserves being in the Hall of Fame.